Kia ora ngā hoa mā. So, in today's video, I've been really interested in something called Altoid tins. And I first got into it when I first started making biscuit tin guitars. And that's a project that we haven't done on here yet, but it's a project that I've done in the past via teaching sites on YouTube and things like teaching pages, I should say, on YouTube. And Altoid's tins is something that we don't have here in New Zealand, but just to give you an idea of what it is, it's basically a mince tin. And what I mean by my Kiwi accent, a mint container. So like peppermints, and you can use them for all kinds of projects. And there's some really fantastic projects out there, and that's why I like them so much, because I'm into a lot of the things that they're being used for. For instance, as the first example I gave was electric guitar. You can turn one into an electric guitar. You can turn one into an amp. A project I saw recently was using, because I'm quite into Raspberry Pi as well, because I use it as a teaching device at school, using it to make a Game Boy system using the RetroPie emulator on it. And you can make yourself an Altoid tin Game Boy. And one of the other things that I've been interested in for a really long time is survival tins. And I've been kind of keeping an eye out for a similar kind of a tin, but we just don't do them here in New Zealand. The closest thing that we do here is something called Eclipse mints. Okay, and so that's an Eclipse container. Now this is my Mark 1 container, and basically what an EDC container is, EDC stands for everyday carry, and I started really getting into EDC stuff probably last year, and a lot of people can interpret everyday carry in a lot of different ways. Everyday carry is the things that you would carry in your pocket every day on a daily basis. And a common thing to do for these particular kind of groups of people, like survival people and outdoorsmen and bushcraft people, some people would say even preppers, is something called a pocket dump. And basically you just tip the entire contents of your pockets out and see what you're carrying on a daily basis. And there's some really good videos of that. So if you YouTube pocket dumps and all that kind of stuff, you'll be able to find people emptying the contents of their pockets and showing you what they've got in their pockets. And some people carry these things called an Altoid's tin survival kit or an EDC survival tin. And a really good channel that I would forward you onto is a really good channel that I would forward you onto is Urban Prepper, and that's kind of what I visualize myself being in the same kind of framework. I'm not the same kind of channel as him, but in terms of a survival tin, I live in suburbia. And so it makes sense to kind of orientate what I would have in my tin more toward what he has in his tins. And so what that means is having a survival tin that I can use every day in a suburban context, in an urban area. And so this is the Mark 1 container that I had. This is a good place to start. This is like I said, an Eclipse mints container. And basically with an EDC tin, the objective is to see how much things you can fit within the contents of the container that is going to be helpful to you on a day-to-day basis. So the first thing I've got here is a magnet, because the tins are magnetic. Okay, well, the magnet is magnetic, but the tin is actually metal. And so you can stick a magnet to it, because magnets always come in handy. Then I've got a whole bunch of electrical tape wound around the outside, and so you can peel off lengths of electrical tape to use the electrical tape. Now, this one I've altered a little bit, and some of the stuff's taken out. It's cotton bud. There's some storm matches in there, Ziploc bag, because those are always handy. I hot glued the striker for the matches on there. In New Zealand, we generally don't get what's called strike anywhere matches. We have safety matches in New Zealand, so you have to have a striker in order to light them. And then in there is also an alcohol wipe. I also had a whole bunch of other stuff in there, like string, and the other big thing that I had in there was some zip ties. And the cool thing about this container is that it's pocket size, and you can fit it just in your pocket willy-nilly, and you won't even really know it's there, but it will come in handy. And I use this one quite a bit, but I found that the biggest issue with this kind of a container, like I say, it's a good place to start, and you can fit a whole bunch of stuff in it, but in order to use any of the stuff in it, you've basically got to empty the entire contents of the container before to get to just the one thing that you want to get out, which is, I found it a little bit annoying. So cool and so if you had this in your pocket with the intention that you're only going to use it in some kind of an emergency because you needed some sticking plasters or something like that, then this would be perfectly adequate. So anyway, I was searching for quite some time for an Altoid tin, and just to give you an Altoid tin is about this rectangular, and it's probably about double the volume of this. So you can fit a lot more in it, but it opens out instead of being vertical and opening at the top. And so the closest thing I could find in New Zealand was this container here. Sorry, excuse me. And I picked this up from my local supermarket. And this is a container that you put hair product in. Now you can tell I don't have much hair, but I bought this anyway because I wanted the tin. And then I took all the hair product out and put it into a separate container because at the moment I'm trying to grow my hair, believe it or not. So yeah, so the first thing that you can see is I could put a magnet on there, but because of the amount of paint that they put on there, it's pretty magnetic. I might leave it on there. You never know. Yeah, I didn't put tape on it because of the way that it opens, and if I put tape on it, there's a chance that I might end up making it not be able to open again. So the first thing I've got is a rubber band, and then that holds on there a pocket square or a handkerchief, however you want to look at it. I don't really generally use handkerchiefs because I don't get like sick very often. Touch wood. But yeah, pocket square can come in lots of handy, especially if you keep yours clean all the time. You can use it to put pressure on like a bad injury of some kind, like a really bad cut. You could use it to put pressure on. So it's helpful in that way. So I always I got into this thing like a gentleman should always carry a pocket square. Okay, and so I thought, well, that's a really good idea actually. So I made this one on my sewing machine out of a scrap of material. So what can you say? Now the cool thing about this container, I hope you're doing okay. Hope mum and dad are all right. Make sure you're behaving. The cool thing about this container is it's multi-level. And so when you open the container, it's got like a plastic liner in it. Now, Altoid's tins don't generally have this plastic liner in them. It's just basically an empty tin because it just holds mints. But this has a special gasket in it, this little white part here, and then it's got the plastic part in it that actually keeps the hair product, because if it didn't have all that stuff, the hair product would dry out and it would be unusable. And so the cool thing is by using this container, it's a little bit better than an Altoid's tin because I've got this waterproof gasket in here that keeps everything waterproof. And you can see there, I've got a tiny post-it notes attached to the inside of the lid. And I can actually lift out the entire tray. And I've got more storage room underneath. So underneath, I've got extra post-it notes, $5, and a giant Band-Aid. So a lot of these kits only have small Band-Aids, but I've managed to fit a big one in underneath, because those skinny ones, they're good, but if you cut a thumb, they always want to peel off, and you want one of those big H-shaped ones because they work a lot better. The other thing that I managed to fit in there was an antibacterial wipe, which is always really, really handy. These two kind of go together. Sorry. A lighter and a hot glue stick. I know it just seems kind of silly, but you can actually use the lighter to warm up the hot glue stick and glue stuff. And I do a lot of like crafty stuff out in the outdoors and improvise ideas, and I'll see something and go, oh wow, I could make something out of that, and want to do it right then and there. And so now I can. Got 2 zip ties. Now, my logic with this kit too is that I wanted to make something that was appropriate for this time, being with the pandemic going on and things like that. And so that was part of the reason of having the antibacterial wipe and things like that. A lot of these EDC kits use antibacterial wipes as a method of fire starting, like in a scenario where you have to survive out in the woods, so you light it on fire to make a fire. Mine's to kind of sanitize my hands or sanitize something that I want to touch. The other thing too is this is a rubber glove with another rubber band around it. I've got various medicines in here. So I've got paracetamol, ibuprofen, and Mr. Ashley gets really, if you've been in room 14, you'll know this already, Mr. Ashley gets really bad migraine headaches, like really bad, and they last for like a week sometimes. So I've got codeine phosphate pill as well for when things really hit the fan. Now try and go through some of this. So a nail is always a good idea because you can use it to scratch something or whatever. A nail is a pretty versatile tool. I know it's just a nail, but you can use it for a lot of stuff. A twisty tie. In America, you guys call them a bread tie. We have something else for bread in New Zealand. It's like this little plastic tag that is bordering on useless, but here we call these a twisty tie. So a twisty tie, because they're always helpful. Now this is a cool thing. I saw this on one of the EDC videos, and what you do is you get a length of straw, and you probably, if you're a child watching this, because you're one of my usual viewers, you'll have to get a parent to help you with this, but you get a piece of straw and then fill it with whatever contents you want, and then melt the end a little bit, and then you've got basically a vial of liquid. And so what this is hand soap. So I've got like a little tiny one-use hand soap in this straw here, and it won't come out because I've melted both the ends. So that's quite helpful. Now I've got 2 paper clips attached to 2 lengths of K-tape. Now a lot of people use tape, like this one has got electrical tape. Duct tape is a pretty common one in outdoor survival kits. I thought, I love duct tape, but I thought K-tape would be more useful. If you don't know what K-tape is, K-tape stands for kinesiology tape, and it's the tape that they use in physiotherapy to tape people's muscular injuries. And it's like it's a kind of like stretchy compression tape. And that was my logic behind using it, because not only can I use it to wrap around an injury, because it's more medical kind of tape, and it's going to breathe and not make your fingers sweat and the thing will fall off and blah, 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 blah. But it's really stretchy. So I can take a length like this big and make it that big just by stretching it, because K-tape is designed to stretch and add compression. So I got 2 little, like I cut the K-tape down its length to make it into 2 halves. So I've got a green and a blue. String and wire, because both always come in handy, and then I've just kind of hot glued it in place so it doesn't unravel. Tiny sticking plasters. I know I didn't like tiny sticking, but you never know. This is meant to be practical for an urban environment, not like out in the wilderness kind of environment. This is like in the street. Oh, cut myself on something. I just want to cover that up just to be safe. Cotton bud, because those are always useful, especially when you get an irritated ear and you can't, scratch it. I hate that. This is something I saw interesting in someone else's EDC kit. Now they took, a toothpick generally has 2 ends, and normally people only use one end and then have to throw the whole thing away for hygiene reasons. So what this person said was to cut it in half, and then you've got 2 separate ends. So when I use this end, I can throw it away. The other thing too is by cutting it in half, you get like a rough, scratchy end. And so if you got like something on the front of your teeth, you could just gently abrase it off. And so there's 2 of those in there. And there's also 1 more of these H sticking plasters, and I'll hold this one up so you can actually see what I mean. I reckon these are the better of the smaller sticking plasters. So if you want to put one in your kit, I reckon that's probably your best choice, because they stick a lot better. just because of the ergonomics of it. Now, in terms of a writing tool, I thought about this lots and lots and lots. And a lot of people put lots of different things in there. A lot of people put pens, particularly telescoping pens or space pens, which are the ones that unfold and then flip upside down and it makes it into a long pen. People have also, just while I remember too, this is an electric Bic lighter. A lot of people put the small Bic lighters. I haven't been able to find those Flint ones in New Zealand, but this is an electric one, which I thought was probably a little bit better in some ways. Like if you were out in the wilderness, you might want a Flint one because even when the lighter runs out, you've still got the Flint. But in an urban setting, like realistically, what is it that I'm trying to set on fire? You know what I mean? Like, questions need to be asked. Sitting in a public reserve, warming my hands over an open fire or something like that. Anyways, back to the pencil. Now, a lot of people put pencils, and what I found with that is that people have chopped down the pencil to make it fit in the box, which is a fantastic idea. But what I found is, like, if you've got a particularly fragile pencil, or those normal pencils, here's one of my son's kind of like that, the ends break really easily. Even if it's in the box and you're a little bit rough with your box and shake it, the end impacts and breaks off. And so what I thought is that it's probably better to have like a builder's pencil or a carpenter's pencil. Now, my logic behind that is that not only do they have a big lead that is a lot stronger, and this one is obviously hard. So in theory, if I needed to, in an emergency situation, something like the Christchurch earthquake, I could actually write on a piece of wall and the lead won't wear out very much because it's designed to do that. You can write on really heavy material and it won't wear out very fast. But the other thing too is, and some people will know this, especially maybe particularly adults and builders, but a builder's pencil is designed like this as a unit of measurement. So across its width is 1 inch and across its side is 1/4 of an inch. And so by using this, I actually give myself a way of estimating measurement, which is quite helpful for me because I'm a teacher as well. And so being able to think like if someone hurt themselves, and just having this in my box and having used it so many times, eventually you get an idea of how to really accurately estimate length. And so I can go, oh, this person's had on the phone to the ambulance or something like that. Someone's had this injury and it's about this many inches long, or it's about 1 inch wide or something like that. So it's going to help me develop a way of accurately estimating measurement. Okay, that's the way I thought of it. I thought that was quite an interesting idea. Now, one of the things that people who aren't from the channel or don't know me well will go, you don't have a knife in your box, you don't have a blade, and a lot of things, want like some kind of multi-tool that has a pocket knife, because pocket knives, there's a negative stigma around pocket knives. People think you carry a knife because you're a crazy person and you want to hurt people. A pocket knife, first and foremost, is essentially a tool, and they are really super versatile, especially if you're someone that's carried a knife for a really long time, like pocket knives, I mean. And just to give an example, this is my teachery school bag, and in the top pocket is a pocket knife, and this is, my dad gave me this knife, so I keep it with me in my bag every day because pocket knives are really, really handy. So I always have a pocket knife in my pocket, and so this is my Schaefer pocket knife, and so I carry it every day. You right, little buddy? Yeah. And so there's 2 little buddies today, and so all I wanted to do today was show you my EDC tin. Now, this is my Mark.2 tin, all my loot out there. So this is my Mark.2 tin, and I will probably think about making a Mark.3 tin, and I'm always adding things to the tin. And what I suggest to anyone that's going to make a tin of their own is, take the time to think about what it is that is going to be useful to you in a tin. What is going to be useful to me isn't going to be useful to you. So think about what you would put in the tin. And that's kind of what the premise of this video is about. I've seen a lot of these videos where people put all kinds of cool stuff in the tins, but they're not really of any use to me. And so what I recommend too is looking at a lot of other people's videos. For now, ka kite anō. If you start making your own tin, by the way too, where I got this tin, I got this from my local Countdown. So Countdown would have these. So if you're a student in my area where I teach, we have a Countdown there, and they'll have this kind of a tin. Otherwise, find it like a rectangular mince tin, or you could start off with a Mark 1 tin like me, okay, like an Eclipse tin. Good place to start because they're really easily available. See if you can make yourself a tin, a survival tin. What would you put in your survival tin? Have a bit of a think about it, and I'd love to see in the comments line what you've put in your tin, because it might be an epiphany for me and go, wow, that's a really good idea. I might put that in my tin too. So anyway, for now, ka kite anō. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time on Mr. Ashley's Place. You want to say bye?
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
And with this bag.
You got to hold it like, we're really into Pokemon, and he's got his gym badge. And we made Bulbasaur with Fimo. Can I show? Yeah, Bulbasaur. Gotta catch them all. Ka kite.
Yeah.